Hello, this is Sheshachalam from AstroGuide Mysore. Today, let us understand the results of Jupiter when it is placed in the 11th house. You know, my sentence goes as the Lord of Wealth in the house of profit. What else you need? People who are actually, you know, want to be successful financially. This is a beautiful position for them because it gives the whole orientation towards making wealth. And ethically, they make it ethically. It's Jupiter. It is not Rahu or Saturn placed there. It is Jupiter. So they'll make it ethically only. That is in the right way, in the right means, through the right means. But they will make enormous wealth. So let us understand how they will make it and the other perspectives of life as to how is their family life, how is their marriage, and the other things with regard to children and everything. Let us understand this. When Jupiter is positioned in the 11th, that means it aspects from that position of the 11th, it aspects the fifth aspect, that is 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. That is the third house, the house of communication. From the third house, this particular position becomes the ninth house, the Bhagyasthana. That is, it is good for the brothers, for the siblings. If anybody has Jupiter in the 11th house, that very clearly indicates that they have very good relationship with their brothers and sisters, and it is a very nice position for this Jupiter to be there for this particular family where this particular native lives. Very clear. And also, the third house means activity and communication. So, this person will be socially very active with regard to many groups, community formations, where communities are formed and the cultural activities are done. So, these people are actively involved in that. Socially, these people are very active in that particular community. The second aspect of Jupiter is the seventh aspect, which directly falls on the fifth house. So I will not take from the fifth house what actually happens, that I have written down. I have made some point, but still, let us say that the aspect of Jupiter over the fifth house gives a lot of strength to the native to have good, healthy children. So this is a very nice position for a person to have good, healthy children in the chart. The third aspect of Jupiter is the ninth aspect, which directly falls on the seventh house of the horoscope. Seventh house is for marital relationships, it is for business, and it is for travel, it is for business travel. So, this is an extraordinary position of Jupiter because it actually takes care of the third house, the house of communication, the fifth house, the house of you know, um, pupils. That is, if he is going to be a monk or a preacher, this thing I will come to the later part. In the later part, I will be talking about this, but still, this is a fantastic position. And now, the seventh house, short journeys, business journeys, very good placement of Jupiter in the 11th house. It gives extraordinary wealth and also in the right means with very good social fame and through the ethical life. So this person loves luxury. He loves branded items. He loves luxury. He likes to live like a king. So why not? He earns money and he is, has all the right to live like a king. But there is another thing of the 11th house. It is also known as the sannyasa sthana. Sannyasa means renunciation. Taking renunciation away from this particular world of samsara. Samsara is the regular world of routine of getting married, having children, then they get married, then again getting into birth. So birth and death, all those things, mundane things, what we go through the birth and death, this cycle is known as samsara. So getting liberated from the samsara, the knowledge what is required for getting liberated from the samsara, the wisdom what is required for relinquishing all these worldly desires is also Jupiter. Is one of the great wisdoms planet which gives great wisdom. It's not only Ketu that gives you moksha, it is the first step that Jupiter gives you the wisdom, and then Ketu takes you for the few further steps. But the major part of the journey would be, a lot of contemplation, lot of understanding as to what is this creation, why am I here, who am I, and all these questions which are great questions answered by great saints. We are not great people. Let us keep it clear and simple. So, Jupiter, when it is sitting in the sannyasa sthana, makes a person, a kind of a monk. He is very religiously perfect, an adept and very good in spiritual practices. So he will have a lot of followers. So if he can be both, he can be a rich man making a lot of money, but still having these tendencies towards spiritual practices. So a very good thing for a person having Jupiter in the 11th house. So 11th house, this is the most important point of this particular placement of Jupiter in the 11th house. So it is the opposite, that is, it is the opposition to the 5th house. So what does a planet do when it is sitting in opposition to any house, that is 7th from any house, is that its own karakatva gets destroyed to a certain extent when it is in the opposition to that house, and if it is the karaka for that house. So the karakatva for the 5th house is putra karaka. Putra means progeny. So Jupiter being the Putra Karaka himself, and he is in the opposition to the Putra Sthana, will give difficulties in relationship with the father and son, or the mother and son, or mother and daughter. So there will be some difficulty of relationship between the parent and the child. And this is because in the Jupiter Dasha Bhakti, anyhow, it is not that it is going to happen always. So, and also, 5th house is for higher learning and higher knowledge. So now here Jupiter becomes the Badaka. It becomes the obstruction to higher knowledge because it itself is sitting in the 11th house trying to obstruct the progress of the 5th. So this is very important. This particular concept and method can be applied for all the planets wherever they are placed in any chart. So do this system so you will understand how actually that particular planet is helping or restricting from from a particular house blooming or flourishing. So mediocre in education and not that great with his own children. So this is also one thing which is very important. So less educated but very knowledgeable in money matters. So they are very good in business. They are very very good in negotiations. 11th house, tough people. So they are not very emotional, but still they know how to deal with other people's emotions. So that's a very important skill. So, if the 5th lord is well placed, then the earlier said points like there will be bad relationship with the parent and the child, that is the father and the son, or the mother and the daughter, or mother and the son. So this will not happen, and that will actually get nullified if the 5th lord is well placed in the chart. But if it is well placed in the chart, these people will be brainy, witty, smart, and rich. So they are very stubborn people. They are very stubborn, very stern with regard to their way of life, their way of routine, and they will seldom change their perceptions. They will never change their perceptions. Very difficult for them to change their perceptions because so they feel that they have learned to such an extent that they can advise. They are not in the purview of listening to advice. They are into the level of giving advice. So that's what is the 11th house. So they live on their own terms. you know. So well known in the financial circles, in the investment circles, where financially, these sectors, finance sectors and investment sectors, banking sectors, these people are very good in this. They are very good in banking and finances. So poor health, we all know the 11th house is the sixth from the sixth. So the sixth house is the Rogasthana, that is the house of diseases and debts. So sixth from the sixth, 11th house becomes the controller of debts and also Roga. So what actually happens? Why debts also I am telling is that these people sometime, if there is a negative planet associated with Jupiter, then these people will live a false life. That is, though there is nothing in the bank or something, they will be overdrafting, getting a lot of loan, making a lot of loan only to show off their status in the society. Whereas if you go inside and see, they will be bankrupt. So this is a very important issue, but it's not so easily detectable. So you need to see and understand the chart, which on Guru Chandal Yoga you can see negative Mars, negative, that is retro Mars, retro Mercury associated with Jupiter, and a very bad dasha of 6-8, that is Sashtashtaka dosha running. These things with a weak lagna, all these things joined together, sudden collapse can happen in financial matters. So it is a very important thing. It is not a simple issue at all. So poor health, and that is because maybe these people go through a lot of tension with regard to money and investments, and they don't have the time for their own health. So they take ahead family business. They are liked by their family. They are loved by their people, because they stick to the family business and they do it very well. So they develop it. They go take it ahead to a very high, bigger extent. They can expand business very well. So these people can work as agents, advisors, leaders, expert in litigations and advocacy, investors, lawmakers, bankers, doctors, judges, monks. As I told you, they can be preachers, teachers, educationists, very high profile people. So they will, once again, this is the fifth from the seventh house for any native. So 100% these people will gain very good wealth and respect. Both wealth and respect. Respect is a social status thing, and wealth is one thing which is financially, which is good for anybody. So they will get both after, through marriage. It's not the negative way that you should think that they will take money in marriage. No, they are very against. They are very much against all these practices of dowry and all these things. No, they are against it. What I am trying to tell here is the time after the marriage is indicatively shown in the chart that this person will flourish in his business and make a lot of money through extra connections which come out due to the marriage. So this is a very beautiful position of Jupiter, one of the strongest positions of Jupiter in a chart. So thank you very much for today's class.